as I explore the flag of Switzerland, its embodiment of neutrality, quality products and high standards of medical care. Welcome to this Swiss Excellent episode of Flags in 50 Places. The Swiss Confederation, or Switzerland, lies in the heart of continental mainland Europe, but because of its neutrality stance is not a member of the European Union, and it seems this is a good place to start. Why is Switzerland a neutral, and how did its flag become a symbol of not taking sides? Prior to 1515, the Swiss were a warlike, barbaric people out to conquer the world, or at least, let's say, they didn't mind getting into a bows and arrows barney as much as the next nation. However, when they lost a conflict to the French at the Battle of Magnano, the Swiss Confederacy decided to abandon their expansion policies and look after number one in the interest of self-preservation. The Napoleonic Wars swept through Europe in late 1700s, which were resulted in Switzerland to become a satellite of Napoleon's Bonaparte's empire, a bit like Thunderbird 5. However, as ABBA sang about Napoleon's surrender at Waterloo, the Congress of Vienna in 1815 signed a declaration affirming Switzerland's perpetual neutrality within the international community. During World War I, while they accepted refugees, they refused to take sides military, which resulted in the newly formed League of Nations officially recognising Switzerland's neutrality and therefore establishing its headquarters in Geneva. World War II was a little more complex for the Confederation. At one point it was surrounded by the Axis powers, but the country declared that it was defending itself against the aggressors. Since then, the country has taken a more active role in international affairs by aiding with humanitarian initiatives, but has also never joined NATO and only joined the United Nations in 2002. But here's the ironic thing about Switzerland's flag and it being a sign of neutrality. Firstly, today's flag is based on the Schwyz canton coat of arms. Now, think of the Swiss cantons as a region, not like the top left-hand of a corner that the UK flag likes to try and dominate. But I digress. This canton region, like many other cantons of the Swiss Confederacy, all have their own coat of arms, and they were all used back in the day on the battlefield to help identify whose team is who and to make sure that they're fighting the right people. And I guess to make sure who they're fighting, not the right people. Like many battle flags of the day all over the world, these flags or banners were square, and Switzerland just never got round to changing their dimensions from a 1:1 ratio to match the rest of the world. Well, why should they? Try telling Nepal that. But they do use the more common 2:3 ratio version of the flag when it's flown on a boat, as well as to meet the IOC's or the International Olympic Committee's requirements that all flags have a standard 2:3 for neutrality. An irony in itself that one flag recognised for neutrality can't use its official shape at the Olympics because it needs to be a neutral against all other flags. Hey IOC, why not make all flags square like Switzerland? Probably because it would be far too complicated and the Americans might get a bit grumpy. What? Oh right, yes. Now this would be the point where I go into detail about the history of this flag, but if you take a look at the top right-hand corner of your screen, Magic Technology has provided you a link to a previous episode that yours truly has already recorded just for you. But fret not, there is also a link in the description below so you can check it out later as well. Don't say I never look after you. Back to the point, this internationally recognisable flag as a sign of neutrality is in fact based on Switzerland's square battle flag, go figure. But I'll come back to the whole battle thing later. So what about this flag as a sign of quality? Not talking about the make of the flag itself, but the products that bear the flag to show that they are a top item of finesse. Well, over the years, products such as chocolate, cheese and pointy blades in pens that bear the Swiss flag, stating that they are Swiss-made, brought about a reputation of high craftsmanship and exceptional worth. And that was true initially until the Swiss government realised that cheap imports and low-grade products were appearing on the market, all branded with their national flag. In a bid to restore the country's brand, they had to achieve something that Boeing is struggling with: insist that their flag only appeared once again on quality products. On the 1st of January 2017, the swissness law came into force with a plethora of requirements that outlined what it was to be Swiss-made and what it was worthy of a Swiss flag stamped on the product. But how did they affirm this? Well, to get the flag of Switzerland onto your item, 60% of the product costs have to be incurred in Switzerland. That includes manufacturing, research and development. for that quality assurance certificate. For the cheese, watch and penknives industry, that's fairly simple to adhere to these 2017 stricter rules. And then there is the rule of at least 80% of the raw materials used to create foodstuffs must also originate in Switzerland. So how do the Swiss chocolate companies such as Toblerone and Nestlé and Lindt manage this when cocoa beans are not normally grown on alpine mountains and a massive lack of Oompa Loompas residing in the country? Well, for that, these chocolate companies they called, or more specifically cow's milk, and here they have 1 or 2 cows to go around. This meant that chocolate companies need to use 100% of the milk from cows who live in the Confederacy. Thus, all the processing of the milk products must be done locally too. Mondelez's international decision to move its production of Toblerone chocolate to Slovenia defies this exclusivity and therefore is no longer deemed Swissy enough to fly the flag. Even Nestlé had to drop the Swiss cross from 80 of its products in 2017 because of the tighter regulations. And don't think just because you live outside Switzerland that you can still use the Swiss flag. You're not exempt from their rules. The international intellectual property rights will mean that you can have your arse sued if you don't play by their rules. It's no different to someone in the UK wanting to make their own version of Star Trek because they don't live in the USA. Viacom CBS will still come down on you like a gang of angry Romulans for infringement of copyright. It's the same thing. Anyway, the point is to be Swiss made and fly the flag on your product, there is stringent, tight rules. And to be fair, quite right too. Swiss watches, real Swiss watches, tell the time better than any other timepiece, which is probably why James Bond always wears an Omega watch, not some cheap watch like mine. Anyway, what is the time? It's time to move on to medical aspects. This way. When is the Swiss flag not a Swiss flag? When it's been mistaken for the Red Cross symbol. What the Swiss flag isn't is a sign of medical assistance or first aid kits, which some manufacturers seem to think. Sadly, time and time again, rescue workers, emergency signs, first aid kits are branded with the Swiss flag when the colours should be inverted. I mean, it's not difficult. It's called the Red Cross for a reason, so the colour of the cross should be, well, red. It's not called White Cross. That would be silly because then it would cause confusion with the flag of Switzerland. But why are these symbols similar, and why do Americans get so easily mixed up? Well, to answer the second question first, they're Americans. The first question, however, is a little bit more in-depth. The reason they're so similar is because of this guy, Swiss businessman Jean-Henri Donat. In the summer evening on the 24th of June 1859, a little after 7, Donat was travelling to North Italy when he accidentally stumbled on the aftermath of the Battle of Sopherian, a small town south of Lake Garda. It was a little skirmish between the Austrian army and the French and Sardinian troops, and morbidly, Donat had a wander around the blood-stained battlefield where he came across suffering and wounded soldiers with no medical care. So affected by this sight, Donat tirelessly worked towards eventually creating the International Committee of the Red Cross in 1863, just 4 short years later. What took longer was the award of the Peace Nobel Prize for Donat, which took another 38 years in 1901. The Red Cross emblem was designed as the inverse of the Swiss flag in honour of Donat's Swiss citizenship, as well as a nod to the Switzerland's neutrality. The Red Cross symbol would be used for anyone who needed their assistance, regardless of their neutrality. The emblem was adopted under the original Geneva Convention of 1864, and it was not meant to hold any religious connotations. However, as the cross reminded the Ottoman Empire of the Crusaders, and we know how peaceful that all turned out to be, it was decided in 1876 that some countries would use a red crescent, which eventually gained official recognition by the updated Geneva Convention in 1929. An additional red crystal was included in 2005 to keep absolutely everybody happy. In 2020, the online popular game Among Us was in breach of the Geneva Convention because they had been using the emblem for their medical symbol. And another computer game, themed Hospital, just to make sure that they weren't going to be sued, changed their green cross into a green hash. So, if you're ever tempted to use a red cross symbol on a white background and you're not a medic in a war zone, probably best you refrain from and choose another symbol. And talking of using a flag in quality products, check this video out to discover the truth about the blue and white of the BMW logo and how a flag influenced this common design. Bon voyage!